Welcome, everyone. So as we are aware that we are just kind of browsing through and taking a few lines here and there from these prayers that we have mostly touched upon, maybe at times twice also. So I thought maybe today we could, last time we had taken February 12th, I guess, this one. Yeah, so today I thought maybe we could take a little bit of May 11, 1913, and if time is left, then also some bits of June 15, 1913. So, anyone who'd like to first go through the prayer for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So the all the three paragraphs?
Yes.
Okay. May 11th, 1913. As soon as I have no longer any material responsibilities, all thoughts about these things flee far away from me, and I am solely and entirely occupied with thee and thy service. Then, in that perfect peace and serenity, I unite my will to thine, and in that integral silence, I listen to thy truth and hear its expression. It is by becoming conscious of thy will and identifying ours with thine that there is found the secret of true liberty and all prescience, the secret of the regeneration of forces and the transfiguration of the being. To be constantly and integrally at one with thee is to have the assurance that we shall overcome every obstacle and triumph over all difficulties, both within and without. O Lord, Lord, a boundless joy fills my heart. Songs of gladness surge through my head in marvelous waves, and in the full confidence of thy certain triumph, I find a sovereign peace and an invincible power. Thou fillest my being, thou animatest it, thou settest in motion its hidden springs, thou illuminest its understanding, thou intensifiest its life, thou increasest tenfold its love, and I no longer know whether the universe is I or I the universe, whether thou art in me or I in thee. Thou alone art, and all is thou, and the streams of thy infinite grace fill and overflow the world. Sing, O lands, sing, O peoples, sing, O men. The divine harmony is there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so if anyone has any lines that are resonating with, we can take anything on these this prayer of May 11.
Yes, ma'am. The
Hmm.
first two lines itself were very powerful for me and very, just happy to read it. That as soon as I no longer have any material responsibilities, All thoughts about these things flee far away from me, and I'm solely and entirely occupied with thee and thy service. Those two lines, I have nothing to say. I just find them very beautiful. I'm able to connect. Thank you.
Hi, Monica ji, Jishnu here.
Yes, Jishnuji, please go ahead.
Hi. This one, of course, the entire prayer is very beautiful. But what I wanted to highlight here is when Mother is saying, I unite my will to thine, and then in that integral silence, I listen to thy truth and hear his expression. It is by becoming conscious of thy will and identifying ours with thine that there is found the secret of true liberty and all poisons, the secret of regeneration of forces and the transfiguration of the being. So when I read it, I felt as if the first line is like, as if like Mother is saying, you withdraw. But then she goes to a deeper level and saying, we are withdrawing not to run away from things, but to unite ourselves with the will of the divine. And once we unite with that, once we are aware of, once we become one with the divine, or once we become aware of the divine wish, to know that that union is the secret of all freedom, liberty, which can overcome every obstacle. That is what I felt. And naturally, as we go down the prayer in the later sections, it's the feeling of the universal being. You know, when Mother is saying whether I am the universe or the universe is with me, it's like Ramakrishna Dev said, that a salt, a doll made of salt, if it goes to the ocean to measure the ocean, it becomes one with the ocean. That is, we or the person, the individual self whom we love so much, loses his identity in the vastness of the ocean. And then there is no difference between the that person who is, of course, a great evolved person and the universe. That is how what I felt.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Yeah, anything else? Anyone? These first few lines, what Jagan was appreciating, I think it's a question I can ask myself, uh, taking inspiration from the prayers by the mother, that we are also at times away from material responsibilities. You know, we also have those empty pockets of time where actively there is nothing that is to be done. You know, we all of us have the day-to-day responsibilities also, but then all of us have empty pockets also. So I think my focus personally feel that we can really make so much of use of these empty pockets of time for this concentration, that mother talks of, that I am solely and entirely occupied with thee and thy service. Although what Jishnuji was sharing, that that has to combine with the day-to-day life, but these pockets of empty time, where one is not actively engaged in the day-to-day activities, I have a feeling that we really waste a whole lot of it by again ruminating about those material responsibilities. So if now we are convinced and we can avoid indulgence in the rumination and regurgitation of the day-to-day things which need to be done, for existence, but the circling round and round repetitive loops in which one indulges, I feel that really wastes a lot of precious time which can be totally and solely occupied with divine contemplation and concentration on divine. So I feel that here maybe some work can be done at practical level, not to waste these empty pockets of time. And I think long back in some prayers we had discussed that what is the way of becoming conscious of the divine will, and it was also shared by the mother herself, that first, and Sri Aurobindo, that for that to happen, if you want to become conscious of the divine will, I think two things, if I can remember, were necessary, which was absolute quietude and peace in the being, no agitation whatsoever, and also absence of any preference and liking. If we can maintain that poise within ourselves, which helps us to not get entangled in the likes and dislikes. So that's why mother shares the secret of true liberty, because there you are freed of all the bonds and expectations, and this should go this way and that should go this way, only then it is correct and otherwise it is wrong. So all these things that engage our attention all the time, we can have the liberation from all this. And also it is rejuvenating. So mother shares it is the secret of regeneration of forces, so as if you have that poise in the being, and that as if it is refreshing poise, it's not draining like when we are engaged in our day to day ruminating of all these thoughts, then it is very draining in nature, but here it is a regeneration of forces. So like a holy dip in the Ganga river has been taken. So I find it very practically relevant also. Yeah. Yeah. So anything more on this prayer, or we jump to the next? So this time we are not, of course, taking the whole prayers at once. We are just jumping from one to the other, taking a few bits here and there. So if there is anything more, please share, else we move to the next one.
Monica ji, just one thing. Mother also spoke about this, knowing the divine will. And I'm just putting this summary. What she said is the first essential condition is an absolute sincerity. The second is to overcome desire and preference. Third, to silence the mind and listen. And fourth, to obey immediately when you receive the order.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. I think this is what I was remembering. So thank you for adding on. Yes. Shall we move then, if not anything, to the next one? Okay, so yeah, anyone who wants to read this prayer?
I will read.
Yes, please.
Yeah, June 15th, 1913. Even he who might have attained a perfect contemplation in silence and solitude would have arrived at it only by withdrawing from his body, by disregarding it, and so the substance of which the body is constituted would remain as impure, as imperfect as before, since he would have left it to itself, and by a misguided mysticism, through the lure of supraphysical splendors, the egoistic desire to unite with thee for his own personal satisfaction, he would have turned his back upon the very reason of this earthly existence. He would have refused, like a coward, to accomplish his mission, the redemption and purification of man. To know that a part of our being is perfectly pure, to commune with this purity, to be identified with it, can be useful only if this knowledge is later used to hasten the transfiguration of the earth to accomplish thy sublime work.
Yeah, anything? Anyone here?
I think this prayer is the summary of the entire philosophy of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. I mean, the basic foundation of integral yoga, as well as the path of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, where they spoke that personal salvation is not important or insufficient. And what we have to, and the thing is, there is no salvation because until the matter is changed, the things remain the same. Even if we see our course of history, while we have progressed, and Sri Aurobindo has said that while at surface certain things have changed or seem to have changed, but they have more or less remained the same under the surface. And that is primarily because no serious effort has been taken to modify the matter. And only recently, Mother Sri Aurobindo, to some extent, Vivekananda, and then they have forced that, okay, that the world needs to be transformed. Though Mother said, even in her commentaries of Dhammapada as well as others, and she said, the greater the soul is, they come back again and again for helping the earth. She said, the greater soul, they don't go out of earth because they have that feeling, like Sri Aurobindo said, in Savitri, there is a line, um, I'm forgetting the exact line, but basically it means income. If we don't share our prize, if we don't share our wealth with others, it is incomplete. For which Ashwapati went and he came down, or he prayed so that Mother comes down on the earth and saves the earth. Basically, that is the basic foundation or the core of a great soul. That he doesn't think only about himself. And Mother Sri Aurobindo, even when Vivekananda, once when Ramakrishna Dev asked him, what do you want? And he said, I want personal salvation. He said, what are you saying? I thought you are a great soul. How can you talk like that? And then later, if you read his lectures or his feelings, he said, till the last person on this earth achieves nirvana or achieves what he wants, there is no personal salvation for me. And that is something which Mother and Sri Aurobindo has been doing, that is transforming the earth. Heaven we have captured or heaven we have managed, but if the earth has remained the same. And when I read this prayer, I felt that this is the core or the foundation of the Mother and Sri Aurobindo's path, which they have lived, I mean, not even spoken, which they have lived throughout their lives and uh, showed as an example to us. how it has to be.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes. Anything more, anyone? So here, this line, redemption and purification of matter. And as Jishnuji was sharing that this is what the crux of integral yoga, not to leave nature or prakriti as it is, but to have purification and divinity there also. So yesterday I just stumbled upon this commentaries on the Life Divine by the Mother, little small book. And here I stumbled upon where Mother talks about the New Year message of 1st January 1958, where she is sharing that nature has accepted to collaborate. So mother is giving an explanation of that message, and in this it's very much kind of, it comes out on face uh, what we want to do, what Mother and Sri Aurobindo have spoken, the message and what has to happen. So I'm going to just read it. Let us see if there is anything that we want to take home from here. In the course of one of our classes, I spoke of the limitless abundance of nature, the inexhaustible creatrix who takes the multitudes of forms and mixes them together, separates them again, and remolds them, unmakes and destroys them to move on to ever new combinations. It is a huge cauldron, I said. She stirs things inside and brings out something. It's no good. She throws it in again and takes something else. One or two forms or 100 have no importance for her. Her here referring to nature. There are thousands and thousands of forms, and then as for years, 100 years, 1,000, 1,000,000 of years, it is of no importance. You have eternity before you. It is quite obvious that nature enjoys all this and that she is not in a hurry. If she is told to rush rapidly through and finish this or that part of her work quickly, the reply is always the same. And in quotes, Mother says her reply, nature's reply, but why should I do so? Why? Doesn't it amuse you? So it was very, it was like really, I had a good laugh. This is nature telling that I am not in a rush, but why should I hurry? Doesn't it amuse you, all the drama that I do? The evening I told you about these things, I identified myself totally with nature. I joined in her game. And this movement of identification provoked a response, a sort of new intimacy between nature and myself, a long movement of a growing closeness, which culminated in an experience which came on the 8th of November. Suddenly, nature understood. She understood that this new consciousness, which has just been born, does not seek to reject her, but wants to embrace her entirely. So this was the, a bit of that prayer that we were reading, that it's not going to be the rejection of nature this time, it's going to be an embrace. So this new consciousness, which has just been born, does not seek to reject her, but wants to embrace her entirely. She understood that this new spirituality does not turn away from life, does not recoil in fear before the formidable amplitude of her movement, but wants, on the contrary, to integrate all its facets. She understood that the supramental consciousness here is here not to diminish but complete her. Then, from the supreme reality came this order, in quotes, "Awake, O nature, to the joy of collaboration." And the whole of nature suddenly rushed forward in a great surge of joy, saying, "I accept, I shall collaborate." And at the same time, there came a calm, an absolute tranquility, so that the bodily vessel could receive and contain, without breaking, without losing anything, the mighty flood of this joy of nature, which rushed forward as in a movement of gratitude. She accepted, she saw with all eternity before her that this supramental consciousness was going to fulfill her more perfectly, give a still greater strength to her movement, a greater amplitude, more possibilities to her play. And suddenly I heard, as if they came from all the corners of the earth, those great notes one sometimes hears in the subtle physical, a little like those of Beethoven's concerto in D major, which come in moments of great progress, as though 50 orchestras had burst forth all in unison without a single false note to express the joy of this new communion between nature and spirit, the meeting of old friends who come together again after having been separated for so long. Then these words came. This was the message on the New Year message of 1st January 1958. Then these words came, "O nature, material mother, thou hast said that thou wilt collaborate, and there is no limit to the splendor of this collaboration." And the radiant felicity of this splendor was sensed in perfect peace. That is how the message for the new year was born. So, yeah, I found it very resonating with when you were reading the prayer. So, if there is anything more on this, anyone who can take.
Should I read it?
Yeah, if you want to read, this has been read. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, maybe this, if you want, you can read this one. June 17.
Okay. June 17, 1913. Grant, O Lord, that I may be like a fire that illuminates and gives warmth, like a spring of water that quenches thirst, like a tree that shelters and protects. Men are so unhappy and ignorant and have so great a need of help. My trust in thee, the certitude within me, grow deeper day by day too, I feel thy love more ardent within my heart, thy light more brilliant, and yet also more sweet. And more am I unable to distinguish thy work from my life and my individual being from the entire earth. O Lord, Lord, thy splendor is infinite. Marvelous is thy truth, and thy all powerful love shall save the world.
Yes, thank you. So, any sharing, any reflection? Anyone?
Ma'am, is this the progress of of an of a devotee or of a disciple when he is aspiring for the divine? Is this how the progress is? One by slowly, my trust in thee, the certitude within me grow deeper day by day, and day by day too, I feel thy love more ardent within my heart, thy light more brilliant and yet also more sweet. So, like, is it describing the progress of a sadhaka?
I think that is one of the reasons why Mother has opened up these prayers for all of us to go through, So, Mother
Yeah.
herself, I think there's some prayers were destroyed and some were compiled, and now they are in front of us translated. And in the beginning, if we read the note that is given by Mother, I think we can maybe go again, jump to that 21. So we'll come back to 21 page. In the beginning, Mother has written something here in her own handwriting, what this book is meant for. So let us read this so that it is good and clear. Jagan, would you like to read? Is it clear enough? Would you be able to? Yeah.
It is clear.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Mother. Some give their soul to the divine, some their life, some offer their work, some their money. A few consecrate all of themselves and all they have, soul, life, work, wealth. These are the true children of God. Others give nothing. These, these whatever their position, power, and riches are for the divine purpose, valuable ciphers,
Valueless.
valueless ciphers. Okay. This book is meant for those who aspire for an utter consecration to the divine. Beautiful.
Yeah. And I think there are many other places also where it is said in Savitri also a few lines come in that manner, that how would the divine guide uh, from grief to, for example, self mastery, right? The divine has to take in that grief. In Savitri's story, there are many, many lines which reveal that she takes up that mortal load so that she can guide what is the way through and way out. So, what you were sharing, I think you already were sharing that this is the journey. If one really, really wants to consecrate all of ourselves to the divine, then this is the journey. Yes. So, page 21. Yeah, here.
So this statement that I would be unable to distinguish thy work from my life and my individual being from the entire earth. I don't know if I missed that part of the discussion, but what would be God's work and how, why is it right now presently different from my work? And what is it that keeps us apart and what is it that brings us together?
Yeah, would anyone want to share anything on this?
I think primarily it is the ego which separates us from the God's work. And what does it mean? But what do I mean by that is we take a very limited and a narrow view of life, which is centered around us. Even when we try to do good to others, we view this good or this action in relation to us. Like Sri Aurobindo said, that just like a spider weaves the words, weaves a web, each one of us put ourselves usually at the center of the universe. And typically, till we have a realization, God or the divine is someone remote, somewhere else. At times, we have an idea that the divine is something very pure and good and very remote from us. Whereas the people who have realized the divine in different forms, that is what I mean to say is through different paths, they will always say that the divine is everywhere. We also know that, but we have not realized that. If we tell that, it will be just hollow words that we say without any realization. And that's why the people who have realized, they will say that the divine is in the people whom you like as well as the people whom you dislike. And that's because that's the truth that they can see, not some words that they have read or were not some words they have heard. Now, the thing is, to come to Mother, naturally, she took, of course, she was a divine being. That's why she is called the Divine Mother. And from a very early age, she decided to consecrate her life to the divine. And as Gagan said, that these, it's like a progress of a sadhak. Those words she felt, that Mother was always, if we follow this prayers and meditations over the years, what she wrote. I remember here in this class, we read some of the prayers where Mother is saying that in a poetic language, that she has descended into darkness, she has committed something, she did something because of which she felt the union with the divine is broken. What those words. But the thing is, ultimately, as I said, the first thing is because she has transcended the ego, she had surrendered herself completely. And this prayers and meditations is the beginning. If we read towards her end works, the agenda, etc., not only the agenda, even the other complete works, we can see uh, that she is almost losing the physical consciousness, and she is, some people are saying that the state of samadhi in which a person can only stay for a few hours or few days after which the body disintegrates. She has said that I have been in that state and it's okay. Now the thing is, at times we feel, is it arrogance? Like, is it something? Why they are talking like that? They are extremely humble. There's so many places where Sri Aurobindo said, "I stand corrected," or somebody is asking something and he's saying, "I actually don't have any idea about this." And then they said, "How you can speak so?" He said, "Why? I do not have the right to get corrected." That is their greatness. Even Mother is saying something about, I mean, she's changing her, I won't say position, but she is saying something that I didn't understand or something of that sort across. And that's because they are so humble, they are so truthful in genuine sense. But to come back, what differentiates us from the divine, we all are doing, of course, we are, everything is divine. But the thing is, there are forces of nature, lower nature, and usually we are guided by them. If we see our activities from the morning during the day, if we analyze, we will see that usually we are impelled by impulses, desires. For the people who are more developed sense of duty, for people who are further developed, maybe creativity, for people who are further refined, maybe consecration. But it is in this spectrum, that is from lower to higher, that we are generally operating. And the entire process of sadhana, tapasya, renunciation, practice, what we say is to find our real self, which is independent of these forces of the lower nature.
Thank you, Jishnu ji. Anybody else?
Welcome.
I think one thing which mother has herself suggested, and it's very simple to do, which we have again talked many sessions. We keep on talking also about that. Remember and offer, because we see that, as Jishnu ji was sharing, that how is my action different from the divine action? That the divine may be involved in also the day-to-day things, but my action is different because I have, as Jishnu ji was describing, I have preferences, I have wants, कि अगर मैं किसी से interact कर रही हूँ, मैं चाहती हूँ अच्छा इस direction में जाए interaction. Outward situations we want to fix, we want to try to dominate, control. So if we can always remember that we have this lower nature which Jishnu ji was describing in us active, है ना, हमको दिखता है वो, तो जब हमको दिखता है और एक there is a want to aspire or to walk towards light, तो जब ये दिखना शुरू हो गया है कि हमारे में वीकनेसेस हैं, imperfections हैं, biases हैं, preferences हैं, before anything that we do, all the interactions, the day-to-day activities, as trivial as brushing our teeth, going to the washroom, if we can always remember and offer and remember and offer and always like a buddy keep mother with us, that's the beginning of a walk towards light, that we will be shown the right way. क्योंकि अब हमको जो पुराना तरीका है वो नहीं भा रहा, वो नहीं सूट कर रहा, कुछ चेंज करना है लाइफ में. So the more we remember and offer and slowly bring it into details of our life, we move towards that consecration, which was the topic of our discussion. फिर उसमें आपकी कोई पर्सनल एजेंडा या पर्सनल डिमांड नहीं रह जाती. आपका जो इंटेंशन है वो ये है कि जो भी हो सबके हित में हो, ये नहीं कि वो मेरे हिसाब से हो, जो मेरे लिए सही है. Whatever should happen, whatever direction this or that thing in my life should take, that should be beneficial for everyone, and for that I am ready to step back from my preferences. So when we keep offering like that and we remember divine in all the details of our life, like earlier we were reading the empty times that we have, empty pockets of time, using them for the divine contemplation, I think more and more the inner space fills and like wells also in a gratitude, and the divine takes its the place that is there for him. तो ये छोटे छोटे चीजें तो करनी चाहिए. I think more and more we should, and we are, I'm not saying that we are not, but still there is always a scope for improvement. So because we forget the areas where we have soft spots, attached spots, there we forget to offer. So there also remembering that this is something which is sticking to me and I want to let go of my liking and preference here. I want to step back. So over to you, kind of. So stepping back from the preferences, desires, and then opening oneself to the unfolding of life for oneself and others. It takes a lot of courage to step back from the egoistic consciousness. Yeah.
So yeah, this is very high level of transformation. And I mean, if I have to take small steps towards it, it would mean that I kind of remove these boundaries that I have drawn between myself and others. One is that. Second is recognizing divinity in all of us. So it doesn't mean that I help only people or do stuff for people only around me or my relatives or people close to me, but it also means that if I have the potential to help people not connected to me, people that I don't think I'll benefit from in the future, people I might not see again without any expectation. So these are the stuff that if I do and I engage in without any selfish interests, that is going to be God's work and that is going to get me closer. Is this what it means?
I think to one sense we can say yes, but in the other sense we can say also that we need not form a formula. So when we say that always keep the divine very close to you, आप जिसको भी याद करते हो, if you remember that divine presence all the time, that please keep guiding me, please keep guiding me.
Yeah.
There the unfolding of your life happens in your unique way. For somebody actually extending maybe the process of their life, that okay, this is how it has to happen, but for somebody it may be actually very different. So we cannot give a formula to anyone. And Sri Aurobindo and Mother also talk about this, that for each swabhava, since it is very, very different, the unfolding has to be their own. So the safest bit is that whoever you have devotion towards, you keep close always and keep asking, that please show me, keep the aspiration alive that you want to move towards light. And slowly you yourself would know what is the next step to be taken, like these steps that you were sharing. So you would know. And the moment you have a calling from within, what Jishnuji had earlier shared, that the moment you get that call, that okay, this is the step needed in this moment, you obey. Many a times we don't obey क्योंकि वो लॉजिकल माइंड आ जाता है बीच में और वो कहता है कि नहीं नहीं नहीं, अगर ये करेंगे तो ये होगा ये होगा ये होगा, चलो ये करते ही नहीं है. And later on we may regret about it, that why didn't I follow that call that was there. So to each his own. And if we are close to the divine presence in any which form, even in our thoughts, if we are closer and we have not really truly found the soul consciousness, and thoughts and feelings we are closer to the divine, we are guided in our own unique way. है ना, तो उसको ट्रस्ट करना है, to trust that inner guidance. We all have that from time to time. At times it gets clouded, but from time to time we have that. So just to maintain that stability and to always want the best for everyone involved, if we have that aspiration alive, then we will be guided. It cannot be that we are not guided.
Thank you for that clarification, Monica, because I think that means that it may not have anything to do with others also to a certain extent, which it might just be a byproduct. It would just be an inward journey.
Yes, it might be a byproduct, as you said. Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Thanks.
good.
One thing is very important to start with is to contemplation of who am I, and in which in Mother's time is who is your psychic being, the inner being. Mother always said that you concentrate and understand who you are. Once you understand who you are, what you have to do will become easy. For her, she said that find your soul or find your psychic being, and then that will tell you the path. Secondly, she said, now that is a long drawn process that takes time. So how will you fill up your life? So one should fill up one's life, and she was very, very practical, with some activity of which you have talent or skill. And she said, daily try to do some work. Daily try to allocate some time or do some work, which does not necessarily mean charity or voluntary thing. She said, do some daily work for which you are not getting a direct material benefit. Basically, you are working something disinterestedly. Now, what happens is once we start doing that, most of our interpersonal problems is because of our ego, right? We are putting ourselves as the central being. If somebody insults us, we think, oh, this person has insulted me. Somebody has been rude to me. If we really contemplate who I am, is it only the body? Even scientifically, our bodies, each cell changes in 7 years. Every cell changes in 7 years over a process of 7 years. So, which means even if we talk about body, etc., that insult or rudeness has not happened to it. But we carry those feelings over lives at times over lives, at times over decades. So the thing is, the real contemplation of who I am helps us to rationalize and to avoid these problems. And naturally, of course, as you said, it's an inward journey to progress and move ahead. The thing is, what we have to understand is what we are seeking out of the practice. That is very important. What do you want? Do you want peace? Do you want happiness? And Mother Sri Aurobindo, everybody will say that to seek the divine for peace and ananda is not okay. You have to seek, one has to seek the divine for divine's sake. And then at the same breath, Sri Aurobindo is saying, but that only few people can do. Only handful are like that who can seek the divine only for divine's sake. So he told his disciples that, so if you are seeking the divine for joy, I would say go for that, because you will receive not only joy, you will receive other things which you have not sought for. But always the goal is like a door, that what you are seeking. And once you know what you are seeking, at least at a surface level, things become very, very easy. For example, if somebody is an athlete and he or she is seriously pursuing that sports, that person will know what to eat, what exercise to do, how many hours to sleep, what exactly to do. But to know that I want to pursue this sincerely is very, very important. And if you want a peaceful life, there are Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and if you read, they are saying that these are the yama and niyama, which basically says how to live a harmonious life. Uh, certain things, be it health, be it in terms of morality, be it morality means that you don't steal, you don't do certain things. Even in Buddhism, the same principles are there. The very basically, if we follow that, we will lead a very happy life. Mother said, do always right thing and you will be happy. And I'm sure every spiritual leader has said the same thing in a different way, in different words, I would say. The basic component of happiness is not things or experience, it is the sincerity. You will find that sincere people are generally very happy and selfless, people who want to offer themselves. The moment we try to seek for ourselves, we become unhappy because seeking is infinite and there is only limited that we can gather.
Thank you, Jishnuji.
But one has to go through the process.
Yeah. So anything more? Anyone? Okay. So if not anything,
Yes,
yes, Jagan? Yes.
mm, yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I was just looking for this thing that you shared in prayers and meditations on Sunday. Let one single drop of light shine in you, and it will be more effective in dissolving the darkness than the most beautiful speeches in the world on what light is or on what it can do, the mother. You know, when I was reading through this and when I was listening to the wonderful things that Jishnuji was saying and the great question by Deepa, one thing I realize is that I don't have to worry too much about, you know, will I see the light, or um, get the will I become the true instrument? I really don't have to, especially after reading that, because Taru ma'am repeatedly has told these lines by mother that thy victory is certain. And my worry is that, oh my God, how maybe I'll go into my old patterns. But the thing is that once I see the light, which fortunately I've been offered some, even though if I'm going back in my old patterns, I know that what the right path is. I know I can get back in track, and that gives me so much happiness compared to if I didn't know about this. So Yeah, all I can say is that I wouldn't worry too much about it. Yeah, it will happen eventually. My thing is to just practice. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, anything more, anyone? We'll do a short concentration before towards the end. If there is anything more, please unmute right away. Okay, so we're going to maybe take up this book 7, Canto 5, which is the Finding of the Soul by Savitri. So we'll have Huta Didi's pictures and Sunil Das music. And if we want, we can keep the eyes open for the pictures and have a good time concentrating.
Thence all departed into silent sleep, and all became a formless and pure and bare. Then through a tunnel dug in the last rock, she came out where there shone a deathless sun. A house was there, all made of flame and light. Crossing a wall, doorless living far, there suddenly she met her secret soul.
तमीरत प्रथमं यगनसाधवं विश्व आरीराहुत मृञ्सानं मूर्जः पुत्रं भरतं